All right, come on. All right, before we get started, let's get excited. Come on, let's go. We're done. 2 times in a row.
1, 2, intro, 2.
In case you guys were wondering what's in our ears, that's what's in our ears. Double check that the auto pan's still on, buddy. And is it muted up there, big guy? Okay, cool.
Still on.
All right, try it again.
1, 2.
Is that coming through, you guys? Technical difficulties. Unplug real quick. Make sure on your second page, the click is turned off. Click and guide is turned off, okay? Plug back in. Let's try it one more time. We're ready. All right, guys, let's get in a worshiping mood tonight, all right? Disappointment, Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Hope in the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Resurrection power runs in my veins too. I believe there's another
never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. 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 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, 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 you're never gonna let me down. 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 'Cause you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh. God of Abraham, God of covenant, of faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast. And let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. And great is your faithfulness to me. And great is your faithfulness to me. Yeah. Rising sun to the setting sun, I will praise your name. And great is your faithfulness to me. Yeah. God, from age to age, the earth may pass away, your word remains the same. Your history can prove there's nothing you can do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast. And let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your He'll never let me down. Come on, sing that again. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. He'll never let me down. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to
I
me.
put my faith in Jesus,
Come on.
my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down.
Let's lift our
I
voices.
put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. He'll never let me down.
Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to
From the
me.
rising
From the
sun,
rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name.
I will praise.
From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness
To me.
God, we ask that you would be present tonight. God, that those words of those songs would be our prayer. That the promises that you have made true in our lives, that we would rest in those. God, you are so great. You are so faithful. God, ease our hearts, ease our minds, ease our spirits as we hear from your word tonight. You're so good and we love you. In your son's holy and precious name. Amen. You guys can have a seat.
What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? Y'all are quiet. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, seriously, you guys doing okay? Doing all right? Doing I get that. Well, whether you're doing well or not so well, I'm really, really so glad that you're here. Being able to stand out, like kind of in the front lobby and watch you guys come in, like it seriously is encouraging for me, like being able to see some of you, meet some of you for the first time. And for those of you who have been coming so faithfully over the years, like I just can't thank you enough because I really believe that God is doing a great work here in and through us and in and through you. And so I love seeing all of you, seeing all the things that God is doing in your life. And I'm just excited for tonight. Are you guys ready? All right. Well, this is kind of a take note sermon. So it's not going to be super content heavy per se, but I think it is best if you do take notes because I got an acronym that I want you guys to know by the end of this. So if you're taking notes, feel free to pull out your phone, open your note tablet. If you have the old-fashioned hard copy of paper and pen or paper and pencil, feel free to use those. But we are in this series called Faith in an Anxious World. Again, in week 1, we talked about what anxiety is. We're talking about anxiety. We're not talking about the disorder or the chronic disease. What we're talking about is the general anxiety, the general stress and worry and fear that we may experience on a day-to-day. And so we talked about that and discussed that a little bit in detail. And then last week, we talked about the importance of community. Chad Russell, make some noise for Chad in the back, brought a great word and reminded us the importance of community. One of the questions he asked was, who is in your inner circle? When times get tough, when stress or worry or anxiety does come, do you have a group of people, your inner circle, that you can go to and talk to? And so what we're going to talk about this week is what I'm titling Check Your Peace. So whenever stress, worry, anxiety, that may come, what are the ways that we can experience peace? And so I'm titling it Check Your Peace. Go ahead and say it with me. Check your peace. And so the acronym that we have is the word peace. And each of these letters stand for a specific word that I want to talk a little bit about. So the very first word that we have is pace. So again, we're talking about peace, P-E-A-C-E. First one is pace. Pace. I would say we live in a very fast-paced world. Would you agree? We love instant. I mean, microwaves, drive-thrus, Netflix, streaming services. We love fast. We love instant. Anyone had instant ramen noodles lately? Those take about 1 minute and 30 seconds or so. It's great. We love fast pace. And I think what that may do to our minds and to our hearts is that accelerates us to a pace that we weren't meant to go. If you ask people how they're doing, more often than not, you may hear, oh, I'm busy. How are you doing? Oh, man, I'm stressed. I got a lot on my plate right now. Have you guys heard these before? Maybe you've said it before. How are you doing? I'm tired. Why are you tired? I've been working really hard. You see, our culture pushes fast pace. They push hurry and push busyness, push productivity. We want to work harder, work faster, and work more. And oftentimes, if we are feeling anxious or stressed or worried, we have to take a step back and ask, what is my pace right now? Because oftentimes, our bodies may be going at a pace that is too fast. And what may happen is if our bodies go too fast, some of you guys may know this, even when you slow down physically, your mind doesn't shut off. You may be walking 1 mile an hour, but your mind is going 1,000,000 miles per minute. Anyone been there before? Your mind can just go. And so one of the things that we have to look at if we are experiencing stress, worry, anxiety is what is our pace? because our culture pushes this pace. I would love to look at Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Again, this is something that you guys may know. You may have heard this before, but let's check out this verse. This is Jesus talking to people, and he says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." If you are hurried or moving fast-paced, if you're tired, come to Jesus. But notice that Jesus isn't giving you time off. He's teaching you a different way of work. He's teaching you a different pace. He says, "Take my yoke." I want you to remember that word. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." It's almost like we've been programmed one way, and so when we come to Jesus, we have to learn it all over again. "Learn from me." Jesus says, "I am gentle and humble in heart. You will find rest." Man, I want that. "You will find rest for your souls. For my yoke," there's that word again, "my yoke is easy. My burden is light." So what's up with yokes? Have you guys ever heard the word yoke before? Maybe you know about like egg yolk, different kind of yoke. Or maybe some of you guys that go to the gym, you're like, "Yeah, I'm just yoked right now." No? Okay, nope, not at all. But a yoke was a first century tool that was used in farming. You could have a single yoke or a double yoke. The single yoke would go onto an ox, or a double yoke would go on two ox. But the interesting thing about a double yoke is that these two oxen would go into the yoke, and they would carry this tool on the back that would start dragging up the soil to make it ready for harvest. You would toil up the hard ground so that you could plant seeds. And oftentimes farmers would do this with two oxen. But the thing is that farmers would actually pair a young ox with an old ox, because the problem was the young ox wanted to go fast. And if you go too fast, instead of actually digging into the ground, you're just scratching the surface and you can't plant. And I think in the same way, we oftentimes can do the same thing. We are oftentimes so in a hurry, wanting to just keep going, moving on with the day, accomplishing our tasks, that we may not actually get underneath the surface. "Take my yoke upon you." We have to learn our pace. The second one is escape. Again, P-E. So here we go, escape. If you're feeling anxious or tired, worried, what is your escape? When you feel stressed, anxious, how do you escape? I think for a lot of us, we love different ways of escaping. I think escaping is actually good. This is the things that you may go to when times get tough. How many of you like to escape to YouTube? Anyone like to escape to YouTube, like watching YouTube videos? Anybody like to escape to TikTok? Any TikTokers out there? Only a few, okay. What about, you like to escape by going outside and like going into the wilderness, maybe taking a walk? How many of you guys like to escape by playing musical instruments, or escape by playing sports, maybe going outside, shooting some hoops or something like that? You see, all of us have different ways of escaping, but the important thing is to know what you are escaping to. Because like I said, I think escaping is really important, but the reason why behind you escape is actually what is the difference maker. Ask yourself, what do I escape to? For some of us, we may escape to going outside, playing video games, going on our phone, looking at TikTok, watching Netflix. Maybe we escape by talking to friends. But the things that we can escape to can become the things that we are enslaved by. So what you escape to can be the thing that can enslave you. What I mean is this: oftentimes we are looking for freedom, so we go to people for that freedom. Oftentimes the way of escape is relationships. Sometimes people escape to drugs and alcohol, right? That sort of thing. Sometimes people escape to God, right? They read his word or they spend time in his presence. Escaping isn't a bad thing, but why are you escaping? Because the important thing is that Jesus escaped. Did you know this? He did. He loved it. I like to consider Jesus an escape artist. Let's take a look at a couple passages. Luke 5:16, this is what it says. Jesus often escaped or withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Let's look at Matthew. When Jesus heard what had happened to John the Baptist got beheaded, so it's like kind of scary. When he heard what happened to him, he withdrew. He escaped by boat privately to a solitary place. I almost think of like those action movies, right? Like right before the building blows up, they like escape on a jet ski or something like that. That's not what Jesus did. He was just a small little boat. But anyway, this is what we read. Matthew 14:23. After he had dismissed the crowd, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. He escaped. Let's take a look at another one. This is the last one. Very early in the morning, because again, for Jesus, he was pretty popular. People were buying for his time and attention. So in the morning was the time when he could escape. While it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Do we have one more? Yes, one more. Mark 6. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, Jesus said to his disciples, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Come escape with me." So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. Go ahead and leave that verse up. Jesus says, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Again, I don't need to know what your answer is, but I want you to think of how you would respond to this question. Do you need rest right now? Rest. I know for me, I definitely do. And I think it's important that we know it's important to escape. But the difference maker in what we escape to is where we are going. Where are you escaping to? Because sometimes, I'm going to be honest, like watching Netflix, that's perfect. You know what I mean? Like to have a day when you can just watch a couple of your favorite episodes or watch a movie, that's great. But the question can be, is that energizing? Man, I know people who go on vacation and then after they get back from vacation, they need another one. You know what I mean? Are you getting rest? Because again, with the pace of our culture, it's important that we escape, that we spend time with God especially. And it helps us become a person of love and a person that flourishes in our walk with God. Our third letter, our third word is A, and it stands for acknowledge. So we have pace, escape, and acknowledge. In the situations where you find yourself anxious, fearful, worried, I want to just, if you have an instance in your moment, I want you to think, have you acknowledged God's presence? Have you actually invited him into your situation? Because if you are anything like me, I want people to read my mind, and I do the same thing with God. Yes, I know God knows my thoughts, but for some reason, I just have a hard time verbalizing it and actually communicating it. Because, and maybe you're not like me. Maybe you have a wound, right? Like maybe God didn't answer a prayer in the way in which that you thought. Maybe you just really want God to show up in a physical, visible way. But have you invited God into your presence? Check out 1 Peter 5:7. Again, some of you guys might know this. But familiarity can sometimes bring contempt, as they say. So we might take this for granted, but Peter says, cast your cares or cast your anxiety on God because he cares for you. Again, I know that this is a familiar verse for some of us. I know some of us might have heard this before, but do we actually believe this? That God actually cares about us? Man, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's hard to believe that. And if I don't believe God cares about me, why would I go to him with my problems or my worries? Does this make sense? Are you guys still with me? I think oftentimes we fail to bring God into the picture. We try to carry it by ourselves. But an important thing as we are wrestling through fear, worry, anxiety, stress, we have to acknowledge God's presence. that he is, in fact, with us, and he does care about us. Check out what Paul says in the book of Philippians. He says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. And see, what he's saying here is talk to God about what you're going through. Tell him exactly what you need and thank him for all that he has done. Because in our worry and stress or anxiety, we can oftentimes just be so focused on what's right in front of us that we forget the past. We forget all that he's done for us. So he says, tell God what you need and thank him for who he is and all that he's done. Then once you do this, you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything that we can understand. You see, oftentimes God's peace is beyond comprehension. His peace will guard your minds and your hearts as you live in Christ Jesus. The important thing that I want you to take away here is to do the honest digging and homework. Do I really trust God with what is going on in my life? Do I believe he actually cares about me and that he's interested in what I'm doing? The fourth one is C, and it stands for consumption. It's a fun word, consumption. The question I want to ask you is, what are you consuming? I think this may tie in with our escape word, but I find this super helpful. Like, what are the things that you are putting into your mind and into your body? Whether those are like actual things that you're putting into your body, like food and drink and that sort of thing, or it's other stuff like music or movies or the people that we hang around, the books that we read, the news that we see, all this stuff. What are you consuming? Because it may have an effect on you. Can I be real with you guys for a second? This is a really embarrassing story. Okay, do you guys want to hear an embarrassing story? I can skip over it. No, you don't want to hear it? You want to hear it? Okay. All right. So my lovely fiance, Hannah, is here on the front row. Hello, Hannah. So when Hannah and I were dating, it was long distance. She was in North Carolina and I was in Indiana. And so we would fly back and forth to see each other. And it was crazy. Fun fact, it happened over the pandemic when like everything started shutting down. I was actually in North Carolina. It was crazy. But one of the times we were in Indiana and it was just when COVID hit. If you remember, it was really kind of scary. No one really knew what was going on. There was a lot of fear, right? And Hannah was getting ready to leave my house to go to the airport. And I'll be honest, like again, full transparency, I have a little bit of separation anxiety, right? Like whenever like I have to say goodbye, oh man, I get a little anxious. Some of you might know this feeling, knowing that you have school the next day. Can you imagine what that feeling feels like? You know, you got the little like upset stomach butterflies and it's like, oh man, you know, just kind of dreading it. That's the way I felt about, you know, leaving Hannah. But the problem lied in the fact that I drank too much coffee and had not enough food. True story. So right before Hannah leaves, I am on again, this is kind of weird, but this is the dire situation that I was in. I was laying on my couch with my shirt off because I was burning up hot and convulsing. I was shaking like, oh gosh. And Hannah's poor thing, like, thank you for sticking with me, but she's like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? I'm like, babe, can you just please get some like cold washcloths and just put it over my forehead? I'm burning up. So she's running to the bathroom, coming back, putting washcloths. I'm like, just get the bath towels. Just bring the bath towels. I'm so hot right now. And I'm just, you know, shaking and all this stuff. Again, a funny story. She had to leave, go to the airport. She thought I was going to die. I didn't know if I had COVID. Who knew? Come to find out, I had been a little bit dehydrated. I drank way too much caffeine, and I had a little bit of separation anxiety. And as scary or as funny as that story is, oftentimes we don't see how little things like that can compound. I didn't wake up that morning realizing, oh, if I drink too much coffee, I might have an anxiety attack or I'm convulsing. Or if I don't eat, then something might happen. We have to acknowledge that what we consume actually does affect us, whether it is the food we eat, the drinks that we have, but oftentimes, it's the music that we listen to. the stuff that we consume through our eyes or through our ears. So if you are struggling with anxiety, depression, stress, maybe it's important to do a little homework, to do a little bit of digging and ask, what have I been consuming? And is that contributing to this stress or to this anxiety? Because I think that's really important. What are you consuming? And then finally, the last one here, we'll wrap up on time and then we'll go into life group, is encouragement. We have pace, escape, acknowledge God, invite him into the situation. What are you consuming? And then finally, encouragement. If you want peace, I often find one of the most practical tools is asking for encouragement. Check out what Proverbs says. Proverbs 12:25. It says, anxiety in a person's heart weighs him down, but an encouraging word brings him joy. Have you ever been complimented before? Has anyone ever said something about you that was really encouraging? Sure, maybe it won't last for a whole week, but it has a way of sticking with you, right? I mean, in the same way that people can say negative things about us, those things can stick with us. But in the same way, encouraging words have a way of lifting our spirits and bringing life to us. And so sometimes we just have to say, hey, I need encouragement right now. It's not a problem to ask for encouragement. The word encourage literally means to give courage, to give confidence. Think about what Chad talked about that last week with his kid. You know, he's saying he's giving him brave. Sometimes we need a little bit of confidence and a little bit of courage that only other people can give to us. So text your life group. Tell your family. Tell your teammates, hey, I'm having a tough time right now. Can you just encourage me? Could you give me some encouragement? Could you speak some truth into my life right now? Because anxiety and stress can have a way in our lives where it iterates lies to us. And we need to remember what the truth really is, who we really are. And the cool thing about this too is it's not just about what we can get. While it is good to give, man, we get to be encouragers. We don't have to play defense. We get to play offense. You have the power to brighten so many people's days, to use your platform and your voice, your influence for good. Check out what Philippians 4 says, and then we'll close with this. Paul says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, he says, hey, is it encouraging to you that literally the God of the universe became human, died for you, and now you are literally brought into his presence because of him? Do you have any encouragement from that? Awesome, use it. He says, if you have any comfort from God's love, if you're experiencing any of the common sharing in the Spirit, if there's any tenderness and compassion, Paul says, make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being in one spirit and of one mind, being united. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Man, that's countercultural. Don't look out for your own interests, but each one of you should look to the interest of others. Maybe the most powerful thing that you do tonight is you use your word, you use your voice to encourage someone in your life group, to go home and to encourage your parents. Because guess what? Parents are people too. Come on, parents, give me an amen. I mean, I know we got some. Goodness gracious. I was just messing. But seriously, we can use our platform. We can use our voice. We can use our influence. We can use our time for good, to encourage and to lift up. So I hope and pray that as you walk into this week, if you do ever experience any stress, any worry, any anxiety, any fear, that you would maybe take a step back and to ask yourself, man, what's my pace right now? Have I escaped lately? If so, what have I escaped to? Is it actually bringing life, and is it helping me flourish in my relationship with God? Have I actually acknowledged God and invited him into my situation and into my life? What am I consuming? What are the things that I am watching and hearing, eating and drinking? And then finally, maybe I need some encouragement, or maybe I can give some. I hope that this brings peace to you today and this week. You guys are dismissed to go talk about it in your life groups.